Matthew French.
Rosebud. Rosebud. The last words spoken by the fictional character Charles Foster Kane in the epic movie Citizen Kane. What those words meant remained an enigma and puzzled those who sought to know, what does it mean? But you and I, the viewing audience, knew exactly what it meant as he uttered that last word and dropped that snowball off the bed. It was a reckoning back to a time far long before he had become consumed with greed and avarice, before he came Charles Foster Kane. Last words can have that impact on people. I hope that one day when my last words are recorded, that they aren't something frivolous, like the two men traveling together and one man said, "Oh, this doesn't look that dangerous." Or the fellow who asked his buddy, "Hey, give me a match. I want to see how much gas there is in the tank." And we laugh at that because there's a certain amount of levity and humor involved with that. But when I think of the last words that perhaps I remembered, and Toastmasters that you may remember from those who have passed on, I think of the last time I saw my mother and the last time I saw my father. Or it may have been friends that I saw, and those were memorable moments. But I think sometimes that those last words lacked the real impact that I hoped they would have. And certainly, had I or you known that it would be the last time that we would have contact with them, we would have spoken of things of much more impact than simply the weather or what happened in the sports the previous night. I often have occasion in my line of work to deliver eulogies for people. Families will come together and they will present to me faded photographs, maybe yellowed newspaper clippings, or stories that they tell. And it is my job to weave those all together as I present that eulogy to those who are left to ponder the life that has passed. You may think that my interest in this is rather unusual, but I ask you to pause and think for a moment that one day we all will be simply memories to those we know. And I wonder, and I ponder this and think, will those people remember me as one who was kind and generous, who loved to laugh, who lived a life of give? Or will they remember me in a not so positive light, of one who simply lived a life of get and get and get? And if I could share with you a personal story of my own, it would be a memory that I have of my classmate who passed away just a few short years ago. He and I spent many, many hours together in classes, on the playground, as we grew up. We shared from elementary school all the way to high school. And upon graduation, I never saw Glenn again. But one day, just a few short years ago, it was notified to me that Glenn had passed away. And I traveled a great distance to be there at the funeral. But this time, rather than being the one who was speaking, I simply could stand back and observe. As I drove on through the night, hour after hour, I thought of what was the life that Glenn had lived, because I had lost contact of him, not having seen him since graduation. As I entered and sat down, in a rather nondescript church building, sitting in the back, hearing one story after another of the life that Glenn had lived. A multi-generational family from Africa stood up and sang a hymn in their native language in tribute to Glenn, who had put forth a great sum of money to bring them from a war-torn refugee camp in Africa to come over and live in the United States. And then off in the distance, a lady stood up and told how Glenn would come to her house every year and put up the seasonal decoration lights at Christmas time. And then there was the man who stood up and told how Glenn would come over to his house and fix his old truck that had seen its better days and not charge him anything. Person after person stood up and told these stories. Glenn had planted a garden in which the hungry people who were without food in his own neighborhood could come and eat. He planted a peace garden to where people could come and meditate. And I thought to myself as I listened to one story after another unfold, I wonder what my life will tell. Will it be that enigmatic last word that Charles Foster Kane mumbled, Rosebud? Or would my life be something that spoke long after I was gone? Fellow Toastmasters, I wonder if each of us might contemplate that as well. What will our story tell? Will it be more than the last word that we have spoken? I hope that you will think about it as I have thought about it in my life. Fellow Contest Master?
Thank you, Matthew.